Well, David, I was wondering if you could start off by telling us a little bit about where this idea came about for what you were doing during our quarantine period.
Oh, look, basically, I've been convening these Shakespeare readings for about a year and a half now. I found this venue. We were looking for a venue for a physical production, and as a way to kind of get things going and just have something to do outside of a physical production, I just started these monthly play readings, and I went, there's roughly 36 to 40 plays. That'll take about 4 years, 10 months on every year to do, if we do it the last Monday of every month. And it was a project for myself. It was a project for two of the companies that I'm involved with, Circle in the Sand, which is my sort of vanity company here in Melbourne, and also the International Actors Ensemble, which is a company that I'm involved with from my time at Shakespeare's Globe in 2015. And yeah, we just started the readings. We just took the Harold Bloom chronology, and I said, let's read them in order of roughly how Shakespeare wrote them, to track his progress as a writer over the course of his career. And yeah, we're about 15 plays in. I think Richard II will be the 15th, and it's roughly in chronological order. We've taken a couple of them out of sequence. Richard II we should technically have done about probably September or October of last year. But I thought, since it's the first play in the Henriad, the Henry Fours and Henry V being the other four parts of that, the other three parts, I should say, I thought I'd run them in narrative order rather than chronological order.
Yeah.
And ever since the quarantine, everyone's moving everything online. And I turned around to Alan, the general manager at the Alex Theatre, where we normally have the readings as a physical thing in the foyer lounge. I said, there's no reason we can't do them online, because interestingly enough, we'd already started experimenting with including international actors last year. At about, I think, July or August, we did the Comedy of Errors. I was talking to my friend Jonathan, who lives in the US, and we were talking via Skype. And he said, I'd love to do one of those readings. And I said, well, you have to be up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, given the time difference. And he said, that's okay. It'd be lovely to do it. So I was like, all right, well, let's do it. We plugged a computer into the big flat screen television and put it up on top of the piano in the foyer lounge, and there was Jono reading Angelo the Goldsmith in Comedy of Errors, and then next month we had Sergio coming in from Mexico to do a role in Love's Labour's Lost, and Jonathan again, and then we did the last 2 shows of last year were Romeo and Juliet and A Midsummer Night's Dream. We had 5 people for Romeo and Juliet, 2 from the US, 1 from London, 1 from Brazil, and 1 from France, and then 4 for Midsummer Night's Dream, and back down to just 1 for King John at the start of this year. And then when Merchant of Venice became the first one that we did online, it really wasn't a thing for us to have 5 actors coming in from the States, from Mexico, from Brazil, from London. It just seemed like the most natural thing in the world. And because we were already starting to do the Henrys, the Henry Fours, so the first 4 plays of this kind of Age of Kings, Age of Crowns, Hollow Crown, whatever you want to call it, cycle, Richard II, Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, and Henry V. We were already going to be doing that. We'd already hit that point in the chronology when the lockdown happened. So I thought, well, let's ratchet it up a bit. We'd already done in the reading cycle very early on the Henry Sixes, which are the Wars of the Roses plays. So I thought, well, let's put those back in, do them every 2 weeks instead of every month, because that seems a bit boring to just do them once a month, and do the whole cycle. And we're throwing in the Merry Wives of Windsor as well, the comedic spin-off of the Henry Fours, because it has a lot of the same characters and in the same basic universe.
Yeah.
And it was the idea was basically to keep as busy as possible, because my friend Monty, who lives in New York, who's going to be doing the readings, his company over there is doing like 3 readings a week. So I was like, oh, I can't just restrict it to 1 a month. I have to do 1 every 2 weeks. And when I realised that there were 4 perfect slots there that we could throw in the Wars of the Roses plays, the 3 parts of Henry VI and Richard III, I was like, well, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do 9 full text readings, and they are full text, which will make Richard III a very long night indeed, but because it's a very long play.
Yeah.
But it's just about trying to keep in contact with one another, trying to keep busy, and trying to keep these readings going and alive. And I don't know that I ever want to. In fact, I've said to Alan at the Alex, I don't ever want to go back to doing them in person. I love doing them online. After Merchant of Venice, I was like, this is fantastic. This is like its own art form. Yeah. This is not like, it's not like a stopgap while we're in quarantine. It's not some ancillary thing. It's actually its own. It can be developed into its own distinct kind of platform for the presentation of theatre.
Yeah.
The whole video conferencing thing. Let's do it. Let's go for it.
Do you find that there are any issues that happen doing it online? Because I know you said before about being able to bring actors from right around the world, and that's an added advantage to it. But are there any negatives that you find, like that someone might drop out or something like that? Is there ways of coming across and repairing that?
It's happened. Yep. People have dropped out. People have had trouble connecting their camera, so we just getting a voice, which is fine. People have forgotten that they're doing this little bit part at this point. But the great thing about that is that, you know, everyone in the cast is a seasoned professional. So they're like, oh, someone's missed that line. We're all reading from the script. So who's supposed to do that? I'll do it. And they just jump in and the reading keeps going.
Yeah.
And if somebody's video feed or the call drops out, somebody else just steps in and picks it up, and we march on.
Yeah.
On you noblest English, as Henry V says. But there are technical issues. There always are. It's the nature of anything live, as you would know.
Yeah.
Things happen. You just have to sort of plough on and deal with it. And that's where a theatrical discipline, and having spent more than 30 years in the theatre, really helps, for me at least, being able to just pick things up and keep going. Or to just say, hey, everything's fallen apart, we'll just wait for a couple of minutes, and everybody got a joke, you know, let's...
Yeah.
I saw that happen at a musical a couple of years ago. I was working on the tech crew at a musical at the Athenaeum in Melbourne, and yeah, the microphone went out, and they had to stop the show, and between the show's lead and the director, who just happened to be in the audience, they put on a bit of a double act while they waited for the microphone to be fixed, and then the woman came out again and she did the song, and the show went on. It was, welcome to the live theatre.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I know. I had a production on once at La Mama, and the same thing happened. The lights went out, and rather than react to it, one of the actors just very, very quickly thought, hang on a second, there's candles on the table that are being used as props. I've got a cigarette lighter in my pocket. Yeah. So he leaned across, lit the candles, and the play just went on with no one even knowing that the lights weren't supposed to have gone out at that part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you do it well enough, the audience is none the wiser. It's like, oh.
So, David, where did your love for Shakespeare come from? Because I know for those of us, while we're at uni, you either really loved Shakespeare or you loathed Shakespeare. Where did your love for Shakespeare come from?
In terms of like a real root cause, I don't really know. I just remember from a very, very early age being very much in love with, I suppose there was an element of willfulness in it. I was in love with just how difficult the language was, initially at least, and how complex, and once you started investigating it, just how amazingly rich and detailed and filled with subtlety and nuance and beauty it all was. And I found very, very early on as an actor, when I started out, that I actually had a bit of a facility for it, that I could actually pick up a bit of Shakespeare and just go, oh yeah, and then just be able to do it. And so I just started, I think it's quite possible it just started out of necessity, just being an up-and-coming young actor, and everyone saying, oh, when you do an audition, you've got to have a Shakespeare piece. And I was like, oh, what's a good Shakespeare piece? Oh, this one. Okay, well, I'll learn that. And then doing that was when I discovered the richness of the language and how amazingly fertile it is, and how many opportunities you get as an actor and subsequently as a director to really explore people and to understand how people work. It's partly the language. It's also partly the theatricality of it. The fact that he doesn't, at least in the published editions, he doesn't prescribe how it's supposed to be done, other than from the text. There are very, very few stage directions, so it's open to a myriad of interpretations.
Yep.
Which I love. You can give Hamlet to 50 different directors and 50 different casts and come up with 50 completely different productions. That kind of malleability and versatility is really, really interesting, for content creators, because it's like, well, this is almost a blank canvas, really, in a lot of ways. If you take the text as read, everything else becomes your own creation.
Yeah. David, you've also had such a fantastic career. Tell us a little bit about the International Actors Ensemble and how you became involved with them in the first place.
I had the very good fortune in 2015 to be invited to Shakespeare's Globe to take up a short residency in what was a program they don't run anymore. In fact, we were the last group to do it, the International Actors Fellowship, which is all about the universal nature of Shakespeare. And it's 20 or so different actors from different parts of the world come together at the Globe, and we spend a couple of weeks doing workshops and seminars and classes and rehearsals, and we work on scenes, and we develop a kind of presentation that we perform on the stage of the Globe at the end of the residency. And, we had people from Australia and New Zealand, Pakistan, Singapore, South Korea, Macedonia, Brazil, Mexico, Canada, the US, France, Italy, people from everywhere. And we all got together, we did it in our own different ways. Different people have different ways of performing based on their sort of the nature of their culture, doing it in different languages, and just to sort of stress the universality of Shakespeare and the fact that different cultures have picked up the language, picked up the plays, the characters, the ideas, and just run with them in their own ways, culturally speaking. And the group that I was with, we all just fell madly in love with each other as a bunch of ratbag mates and collaborators, and just said, let's form a company. Let's start doing our own shows by hook or by crook. And despite the cynicism of some of the people at the Globe going, oh, yeah, everybody says that. Every 2 years we do this program, and every time they say, oh, yeah, we're going to form a company and do our own shows, and nobody ever does. We did. Within a year, we were in Mexico doing The Comedy of Errors, which I directed, and we played that in Jalapa in Mexico City and had an absolute whale of a time doing that. And then a year later, we were in South Korea doing a show there with a whole bunch of amazing South Korean performers and crew, and having a blast doing that as well. And we've sort of, given the funding and the way support for the arts is, it's difficult to keep shows happening, but we managed to do the odd bits and bobs here and there. One or two of us will get together. I know Selena and Valentina did a show in London, and myself and Natalie did a thing at the Geelong After Dark Festival, when she came over from New Zealand. And yeah, we keep it alive as best we can. And these readings, which were initiated partly by IAE, were very much a part of that. So it's kind of fitting that now, as we're in quarantine, we're actually having an opportunity to have an amazing measure of intimacy, despite the fact that we're in the other side of the planet.
Yeah,
we're able to do these play readings and share them with whoever wants to log on and have a listen. And yeah, it's a wonderful company, and we're hoping to do more physical shows, obviously, if and when quarantine ends and humanity can get back to some semblance of normal. It'd be nice to get together and do a physical show again, but in the meantime, having the ones that are keen to do these readings, doing them is a blessing.
Definitely. And we'll put up a link to the website as well, so that people will be able to check out what physical shows the International Actors Ensemble are doing in the future. But for right now, David, where can our listeners actually check out these play readings that are going on?
Well, any one of either the Alex Theatre, the Facebook page of either the Alex Theatre in St Kilda, Circle in the Sand, which is my company here in Melbourne, or the International Actors Ensemble. All three of those organisations have Facebook presences. If you jump onto those Facebook pages, hit like, hit notifications and all that sort of stuff, we'll constantly be updating those. I'm about to start promoting the 5 actors who are playing the title roles Richard II, Henry IV, Henry V, Henry VI, and well, actually, no, it's 6 technically, isn't it? Sorry. I'm losing my mind. I'm about to start promoting those actors because we've got those actors